Hey everyone, welcome to Java Byte. In today's video, I am going to discuss at controller annotation, at response body annotation, at REST controller annotation. Now we'll start with at controller annotation. This is one of the most important annotation in Spring MEC application. At controller annotation is used to mark a normal Java class as a Spring MEC controller, and this controller class will handle all incoming HTTP requests. By default, the methods present inside this controller class will return HTML view page. It will not return any other JSON object or XML data. It will return an HTML view page. So means whenever we'll create any controller class using at controller notation, means it will become a controller layer and it will handle all the requests made by the user. And the methods present in this controller class will return an HTML view page. Now let's understand this uses of at controller notation practically. For that, we'll create one simple Spring application, and practically we'll see how it will work. Okay, for that, I will jump to a browser using Spring Initializer. I'm going to create a simple Spring application. For this, what we can use Spring Initializer. If you don't know how to create a Spring Boot project using Spring Initializer, please check my previous video. There I have explained step by step how to create a Spring Boot project using Spring Initializer. Also, I will provide the link for that video in the description. Now, what I will name this project as a Spring Boot controller, and I have used the project mom and build and language Java, and also I have selected the Spring Boot version 3.3.5, and packaging is jar, and Java version is 17. Now I will add some dependencies. First I will add Spring Web dependency. To create any web services we need a Spring Web dependency. Also I will add one timely dependency. As I said, the method in the Spring MVC applications, endpoints will return an HTML page. To create and handle HTML pages, we need a time-leap dependency in our application. And I will generate the project. The project successfully got downloaded. Now I will go to a folder, downloads, and I will extract this file. It's successfully extracted. Now I will open my IntelliJ IDE. The project is getting got imported successfully. Now what I will do, inside src main package Java, we have our main application class Spring Boot controller application. The execution of the application will start from this class. And also I have explained what is the user Spring Boot application and how it works internally in the previous videos. Also I will add the link in the description. You can go through it if you are not aware of this one. Okay, for now what I will do, I will create one package and I will name it as controller. Inside the controller package, I will create one Java class called employee controller. Now I have created successfully one employee controller class. Now it's a normal Java class. To make this as a controller class, I need to annotate this class with @ controller annotation. And inside this controller class, I will define one method public string get employee. And as I said, it will return an HTML page. I will name it as index. This index.html is not present in our application. I need to create an index.html page. So inside this controller class, I have created a get employee method. And for this method, I will define request mapping. And the method will be get method. Also, I will provide the endpoint for this method. Endpoint will be the employee. So I have created successfully one controller class. Inside this controller class, I have defined one method, and this method will return an index.html page. Now I need to create this index.html page as it is not present in our application. So we need to create HTML page inside a resource folder. We have a templates folder. Okay, inside this, I am going to create one HTML page called index. Inside this body section, I will create one header. I will give the content as a welcome to Java Byte YouTube channel. And I will come back to the controller class. As I said, when we create any class with @controller notation, this class become a controller layer and it will handle all incoming HTTP requests. And whenever user calls any URL, the request will come to a controller class and it will process request to a required method, and the method will return an HTML view page. Now we'll restart our application. Before that, what we'll do, we'll create an endpoint. What will be the endpoint to call this method? For that, what we'll do, http :/ localhost, default port will be the 8080 and endpoint will be /employee. This is the endpoint we have created now. Inside employee controller, we have defined one method class with the endpoint /employee. Now what I will do, I will run this application and I will copy this endpoint. I will hit this endpoint through a browser as it is a get endpoint. So we can call it through a browser also, and we can use Postman also. So let's wait to start the application. Yes, the application got started successfully on port 8080. Now I will hit this endpoint. See, I'm calling this endpoint. It's return a welcome to Java Byte channel. Successfully it's written welcome to Java Byte YouTube channel. Means we got to know that the usage of controller annotation to create a controller layer in Spring MVC application. I hope you guys understood the usage of controller annotation. Yes, we can see here it is returning an index.html in Spring MVC application. Now, in order to return a JSON object, what we need to use? In order to return a JSON object, we need to use one annotation called response body annotation. Now, we'll see about response body annotation in next slide. Okay, here we can see response body annotation. When you want to return data in JSON format instead of rendering view like an HTML page, you need to use response body annotation and method. And whenever we use this response body annotation and method, this annotation will tell to a Spring framework to convert the returned Java object into a JSON and include it in HTTP response body. I hope you understood the definition of response body annotation. Now let's see in practically. Now, as this method is returning an HTML view page, right? Now I will create one more method. For that, before this, I will create one model to return data as a JSON object. First that I will create one package. I will name it as model. Inside model package, I will create one employee object. And this inside this object, I will define private string name, private string ID, or else you can use instead of ID also I can use address. Okay, Now what I will do, I will create constructor for this class. I will create generate getters and setters also. Also, I will create constructor. Okay. Now we'll go to the employee controller class, Java class, and here I will define one more method, public, and return type will be the employee object, employee data, and this method will return a employee JSON data. I will provide the data with ABC, Bangalore. And for this, what I will do, I will define a request mapping. Method will be the get method, and endpoint I will give as a /emp. And as I said, still it's not returning a JSON object. As I said, we need to annotate the method with @response body annotation. Whenever we annotate this method with response body annotation, this annotation will tell to a Spring framework to return a JSON object instead of HTML page. So now we'll validate this, it will work successfully or not. Before that, we'll create what will be the endpoint now for this. HTTP colon slash localhost 8080 slash EMP. Endpoint will be the EMP. Now I will copy this endpoint and I will restart our application. Now this endpoint should return a employee JSON object instead of index.html page. Now let's see. Let's wait for a second. The application restarted. The application restarted successfully on port 8080. Now I will hit this endpoint. It should return a employee JSON object. Yeah, successfully it returned name ABC and it should return a address also. Now let's see why it's not returned employee. Sorry, I didn't use address setter here. So I will generate header setter for address and I will restart our application. I hope it will work fine now. Now I will try to hit this endpoint again. Now it's successfully returned with employee JSON object. I hope you have understood the usage of response body annotation in Spring MVC application. Means whenever we need to create a RESTful web service in Spring MVC application, we need to use at controller annotation and response body annotation explicitly on method. So here we have used the controller annotation, response body annotation to create a RESTful web service, RESTful endpoint. Okay. Now we have one more annotation called REST controller annotation. This is one of the most important annotation in Spring Boot. Now let's see the next slide. See, this is a REST controller annotation. In Spring version 4.0, the REST controller annotation is introduced. This REST controller annotation is a combination of add controller annotation and response body annotation. As I said, it is a combination of REST controller equal to controller plus response body annotation. This REST controller annotation we will use in order to develop REST APIs in Spring Boot application, not in Spring MVC application. To create a REST controller, we need to annotate a Java class with a REST controller annotation. I hope guys you understood the usage of REST controller annotation. In simple way, we can say that REST controller annotation is a combination of controller annotation and response body annotation. And we can create REST APIs using REST controller annotation. Now let's see practically how it will works. What we'll do now, as we can see here, we can the first method is returning index.html page, and the second method is returning JSON object. As here we have used response body annotation. Now instead of this providing response body annotation on each method level, we can provide it on class level also. So also it will work fine. So in order, now this it will not return a index.html. It will return as a index as a string, as I have provided a response body annotation on class level. It will also work as a Spring REST API. Now we'll restart our application and we'll cross check it. Now I will hit this endpoint. Now it will not return welcome to Java Byte YouTube channel. Instead, it will return index as a string. See, successfully it returned index as a string. Now I will hit this endpoint also. It will return. It is returned Java JSON object. So we understood that we can use controller annotation and response body annotation to create Spring REST API. Right. Now, we instead of providing this response body annotation on each method level, we have provided it on class level. Now we can see here it's annotated with control annotation, response body annotation. Instead of providing these two annotations, we can use REST controller annotation. So this annotation is introduced from Spring Boot version 4.0. And this annotation, if we go source code of this annotation, REST controller is annotated with at controller annotation and response body annotation. As I said, REST controller annotation is a combination of at controller annotation and response body annotation. Now we'll cross check it by restarting our application. So the server is restarted successfully. Now I will hit this endpoint. It's returning index as a string. I will hit this endpoint. It's returned employee object. I hope you guys understood the concept of REST controller annotation, and response body annotation. Now, there is one question will get arise. Okay, what is the difference between controller annotation and REST controller annotation? I hope already you have understood. In simple way, we can say that get controller annotation is used to create a controller class in Spring MEC controller, and the methods present in the controller it will return as a HTML view page. If it comes to a REST controller notation is used to create pure REST APIs in Spring Boot applications, and the methods present inside the REST controller, it will return JSON object as a response. I hope you guys understood the concept of REST controller annotation, and response body annotation. If you like the content, please subscribe my channel and like the videos. Thank you.